talk about something that I think is really important, which is teacher zen. And it's not necessarily, it's how to draw a balance and how to prepare now for it before you enter the school semester. Because if you don't prepare for it, then you will not have this zen. And I always think that if you prepare, that's always a way to ensure that you have, if you take the time now, then you're going to have a much better year as a teacher. So we're going to go ahead and go through some tips. Remember, you get a free certificate for participating today from American TESOL. Just follow the bit.ly link that I'm providing in the chat box. And also you can go to shellyterrell.com and you will find the certificates there as well. You also see upcoming webinars that we have. You'll also be able to access all the recordings. We have like over 200 of them. So you also get to have all of the bookmarks. So it's a good thing. Let me go ahead and get the American TESOL so that way you can go ahead and follow that as well. I think this is really funny, but it is so true. Teachers, one of the things that we have the hardest time with is we really have a difficult time with balance and taking time for ourselves. And what I really love about this particular quote is because cats actually really are perfect examples of, and I love that by Hector Tolle. He says, I have lived with several Zen masters, all of them cats. And one of the things about cats that you'll find is they're very smart, they're very keen, but they also take the time for themselves, and they really do care about themselves a lot and focus on themselves a lot. And that's important. A lot of times as teachers, we sacrifice so much and we rarely take the time to give to ourselves. So it's important that we try to maintain a balance. And my Zen master is actually not a cat. My Zen master is actually Roscoe the pug. And Peggy asked a very good question. So I think Zen is, I think that it's different for everyone. I'm not using this in the way of the actual Japanese school of Buddhism. What I'm using it more as, and this is more from like Urban Dictionary. It's a total state. It's where you feel at peace and you feel at your best, but you also feel very stable. So in other words, teachers, a lot of times we tend to go overboard and then we feel very stressed, and then we feel very depressed throughout the year, or we feel very tired when we go home. So I think for you, your Zen is going to be something else. And that's something to remember as we go throughout this webinar, is that each of you has to come with your, yes, exactly. That one is too, Lily. But Zen has become actually a word. When people say Zen, I have my Zen. It's associated with kind of peace, and now we use it kind of as well as we use it kind of as a urban term. It got into our diction, exactly, or a place that we're just at our highest, I think. Exactly. Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance, and there's Zen in a lot of books like that. So it's kind of like where you want to reach. It's that ultimate balance as well. But Roscoe is very good at teaching me Zen. I try to learn as much from him. And this year, I'm really starting to focus on more like my burnout, because I have experienced this, and that's why I talk about it so much, because I tend to be one of those people that go overboard. I learned very, very early on I have a type A personality, and I tend to be a workaholic. So I had a course, and a psychology course that I took, and it listed some really great things, a list of ways that I could avoid getting stressed out. And I follow those still, even, and that was 2 decades ago. 20 years later, I follow them. One of them is, it says, for example, take the scenic route, don't go during traffic times. And that's something that I still do. So what I used to do at school, because I knew that about me, is I would either leave later, or I would leave, or I would try to leave at times when I wasn't going to have traffic, or I would go do things like, for a while, as soon as at the school, I would just run into the track and stuff like that. Oh, I love that. Okay, so Lily says it refers to a philosophy of living a balanced life. Yes, I think that's a great way to say Zen. And that's where burnout comes out. And I try to do this, but I think balance is very, very important. But also another part is health. So one of the different types of resources that you will find is I actually made a 30 goals challenge, and this is goals, small goals that teachers take. You can actually go and you can find this. Teachers are always producing goals with the 30 goals challenge, but one of the ones was avoid burnout. There's small challenges that we try to get each other in the community to do, and so I will share with you the actual website for that. But these were suggestions that I pinned from teachers, how they avoid burnout and stress. So these are things that you can take into consideration for them. Now, how do you avoid burnout as a teacher? That's something for you to think about. And if you have any advice, feel free to put it in the chat box. Hi, Sarah. I know Sarah goes and does some spin classes. I used to run a lot, but one of the things I also did was I started also meditating right before my classes. And one of the reasons I did that is because I wanted to associate my class not with just being hectic, but also with being a place that I could take the time out for myself. So I had to really practice that. I love this by Tyson Seaburn. So when he was writing what he did, and I recommend all teachers do this, is that you actually graph or sit down and calculate your time, visually make a representation. It's important that you see what you're spending your time on. And that's something that Tyson did in this particular blog post that I thought was really, really good. So if you want to be able to eliminate that kind of stress in your life, it's important that you lay it out there. So what do you spend the most time in, and what's going to give you the most stress? I know for a lot of teachers, one of the things that does that is grading. Grading is very stressful for them. Another I know that teachers have is health and sleep and weight. And all of that is important. So we need to be able to calculate, well, what are we spending our time on? And when we do it this way, and I think it's really funny, this part that Tyson says, puppy time. So he says, because he's an English language teacher, but he says, like, read fiction, movies, and TV, and then he talks about puppy time. And so he's writing the different things that are there. But another one is also, it gives you an idea if you're spending too much time on the menial things, or when it's things that, and I think that's something that we're all pretty guilty of. And if you lay it out there, then you see that. You see, oh, I'm spending way too much time, for example, sending, if you make a list of things that stress you out. For example, I talked to a teacher, and the teacher listed one of the things was that the attendance, he had to go through the series every other day, basically, of an attendance. And so he found that he was actually spending like an hour, and it really stressed him out with this attendance matter. And so if this is going to be something that you do, then it's important that you take the time to take the conversation and really fix that issue. Another one that teachers is professional development. So these are things that you can talk with. If you have the conversations, a lot of us don't want to take the time to have those conversations, or we feel like they're gonna not like us if we talk about it. But if you have the conversation, you're very open to it, and you try to suggest different ways to solve a problem, and you go at it that way and not as complaining or saying that your leadership is bad or anything like that. But if you go very open, then you can save yourself a lot of time. So that's something important to note. Technology. Well, why would we use technology? Technology can actually lessen your burden in a lot of ways. It can also save some time in a lot of ways. For example, grading. If you get a good enough platform, if you can convince your teacher, your admin and your school to put everything, for example, do something like Edmodo or Google Apps, that really helps you save so much time. So putting the effort to really promote these things is gonna, when you look at what to focus on, and if you think, no, that's just a burden, what I like to do is I take the rest of the year and I actually calculate the amount of time that I would be saving by taking the time just to present the idea and really try to get my school to do it. And getting started learning about technology takes about time, but it actually saves you so much time in the long run. And so I'm going to show you some apps that I like and some ways that I save time with technology, and hopefully it'll help you as well. So one way is it eliminates paperwork, and you would be surprised how many hours you spend on paperwork and in all the middle process. So whenever you can cut out the middle, when you can make your process shorter and when you can eliminate paperwork, you are going to save tons of time. And here's the reason why. If you can get all of your templates, your handouts, all of that, if you can get them on the computer, then all you have to do is each year you just adapt it. You just change it up a little bit. If you write, for example, the templates for all the projects, then you just, for each project, you can have the same kind. You can have the same checklist. You can have the same calendar. You can have the same rubric, grading, and then you just make the different types of changes or adaptions so that way it applies to that particular project. And so that's why technology is very helpful, because you can digitally share all of this, but also it makes it more effective communication. So one of the ones that I really recommend is Google Apps, or you can even do like mobile Google. This has saved me so much time and energy. And it's funny because I'll go to different types of training. I'll train how to use Google, how to use Google Apps. And I've actually had in Germany, when I was in Germany, I had the school director, he told me, he said, I'm not sure if the teachers are going to use your ideas with Google Docs. And he said, but you have saved us so much. The whole office is going to go Google Apps. So they said, so the office actually decided that they would use Google for everything. But it was the teachers actually in that particular workshop that weren't as convinced. So hopefully now they are. But Google just helps me, and it's free, but it really helps me in everyday life as well. I use everything for Google. So I'm going to show you a few things that they have. When you think about Serenity, okay, so you need to think of a routine right now. I want you to picture right now in your mind, what would be the perfect balance of work and also school for you? So for example, what is it that you want to do this year that maybe you haven't done in the past that would really make you happier? So for example, sometimes running, okay? That's one of the things that I end up doing. I also liked doing classes. So that's one of the things that I started scheduling for myself. I went in one year when I was teaching in Texas, and I said, this is going to be the year that I run. When you have to plan for your serenity. In other words, you have to plan how you're going to use your day. when you're going to take your breaks, when you're going to take those times to be by yourself and do some kind of meditation. It doesn't have to be a formal meditation, but the kind where you can just be by yourself and take those minutes. Because, and if you don't write it down and you don't set these goals and plans for yourself, you're not going to. And for me, you know, it's really at some points got into my health. I remember I used to actually work through my lunch, so I wouldn't even take the lunch. The other thing about it is commit yourself to things that you're not going to do. For example, I had to write to myself, I will take bathroom breaks. I will not hold, because of the health reasons, I told myself I will take the time during lunch. And so you have to commit these things to yourself because you want to be good to yourself. So that's part of it. Set goals for taking breathers throughout the day. Where's going to be that place that you kind of get away? And when you do all of this, it's important that you start now. So don't think because you write out this plan, and these are one of the things that I do, is I actually put a schedule down. And just because you put that schedule down doesn't mean August is going to come or whenever you start and you're going to do this. So the idea is start right now with that. Do those things now. So if you want to go and start running now, start fitting it in now. If you want to take 5 minutes every 3 hours or something, start doing these things now. You want to create habits now so when you get to school, you'll be fine. And then also plan for things. So I had one teacher, and she told me she would actually sleep with her, she would sleep with most of her workout clothes. So first thing she would do in the morning is wake up and go run. So she would do that. For me, I had scheduled that right. I didn't want to do the traffic anyway. I figured I was going to waste time in traffic. So I actually ran around the track and used our school gym every day. I would take the time to do that. And sometimes I would just walk around. But for me, I figured that was wasted time anyway, getting upset during traffic, that I might as well take that time to do my exercise. But for you, it could be reading. It could be the time that you go to a Zumba class or very close by. It could be time that you spend with other teachers and you decide that you're going to go and have, you can have a break and things like that. So there are different things that you do. I schedule alerts in my Google Calendar. You'll see here in this particular alert, maybe I can make it larger here. Can you see that larger? You see what it says on my thing there? It says exercise and beauty. You're a gem, so start treating yourself like one. So I actually write these things in my Google Calendar because they come out in my everywhere. And so what I do, and you'll see here, I even make a to-do exercise, at least skin, do stay, you know. So I'm pretty meticulous, and so I don't only use the Google Calendar for school, because you can use this for school, but I also use this for myself. And I think that's really good with technology, is when you use it for your life as well. If you're the kind that needs motivation, well, I always think that getting another teacher on board to do these health goals with you is fantastic. You know, get someone to walk with, get someone to run with, get someone where you say every Thursday that's going to be our happy hour time, or that's going to be our reading book list time, or whatever it is that brings you happiness, okay? That's going to be our cooking together time or something. It's important that we make establish relationships in the school. We should have a teacher that we can do that with in the school. And if you don't think of anyone that you can, try to make it a goal this year that you're going to go in and find a teacher and have that kind of relationship, because we really need to support each other. If you're into gamification, you can use this really cool online website and also app, which is called habitrpg.com. And what it does is you write the things you want to accomplish. It's free, by the way. And what it does is it gives you badges. It gamifies it. It gives you rewards. It gives you levels. See, you can have the gold level, the silver level. So it's kind of a fun way to get you to start doing the things that you always wanted to do. So there's a fun way you can use the Habit RPG. And remember, you want to start now because once school starts, you're not going to take the time to do it. So take that time now and establish those habits, because when you begin your routine at school, it'll be easier to keep those habits. Another thing I recommend for teachers is build your survival kit. So a teacher survival kit is everything that you have. It could be anything. It could be silly putty. It could be masking tape. It could be balls. And what you'll notice if you go to, I'll even give you the slideshow presentations. We've actually done webinars on all of that. And when you do that, one of the things that you can do is you prepare for whenever something goes bad or the time schedule. So you're making yourself a flexible teacher. So for example, I always have like a ball. I always have like Play-Doh, masking tape, and I have so many different types of activities that I can do with these. When you go to the presentation, you'll see like 10 plus activities with a ball. You'll see 20 activities with masking tape. And so what that means is that if anything were to happen, or I see my kids are restless, then I know an icebreaker, I can play with them. I don't panic. I'm constantly on teacher mode. Sort of like I'm prepared for anything. I want to be proactive instead of freaking out. Because kids or students in general are learners. Once you freak out, they're going to jump on that. So, so it's good that you are proactive, and we never know what's going to come up. I know with the young, when I was teaching kids, and I taught from 2 to 80 years old in many different countries. I've been to at least 20 different countries and worked with teachers and learners. There were times when I'd be in my class in Germany and the kids would come in and they would have been in a really bad mood and they would start fighting because they just got out of sleeping and they were not happy. So then I would have to do one of my on the go, I would have to change the lesson up. So it's really important that we do that. Oh, maybe the tiny URL is expired now. That's one thing I don't like about Tiny URL. Oh, it opens up for me. Here, let me go ahead and put this one. There you go. So definitely you want to, you want to be prepared for anything. Sometimes you have fire drills and then that takes up your whole entire lesson, and then you pretty much decide you want to do the lesson the next day. So what are you going to do for the rest of the class? Well, I've seen some teachers say, okay, you can take this time to do whatever. No, don't have them do whatever. It's optimal learning time, whatever we have. And so what you can do is you can go and you can go ahead and you can take that time. Oh, Peggy, it's right under the, it's the Glockster. It's right under the video. I love my Blockster. It actually connects to links. Yeah, it takes a while to load with that link, by the way. But that's just some of the things that I used in Germany. That's always been, so that way if my students ever lose interest or anything like that, then it would, I would be prepared. Another way that you can, and we had this recently on an ed chat, and you can access this for free, our chat archive, was we talked about faculty meetings and department meetings. And a lot of times that wastes so much of our times, because what happens is that the teachers what happens is that for a lot of us, we have where our admin will actually go and they will they will take quite a bit of our time. And they put us in meetings, and a lot of times we don't think that these meetings are relevant. So if you have this particular situation, this particular ed chat talks about things that you can do. Those are all the transcripts, and I'm going to go ahead and share with you the actual one from that we had the other day. Let's see, where did it go? I don't know if Jerry has put this up yet. But you can find a lot on PD too. But one of the things that I recommend is on that particular one, I said give examples. And then my suggestion after that was take one of those examples that you think is really good, how someone has a meeting, and then just show it to your administrator. So if you want to do something, you want to change it up, what you have to do is show a good example. Go talk to your administrator and make sure you are very open. Don't be accusatory or anything. And then also say, look, I was just wondering if we could try this for a meeting instead of us doing it this way. Maybe perhaps we can listen to the announcements ahead of time or anything like that. And during the meeting, maybe we could work together and do, I don't know, a team building exercise or something. So I think when you do it that way, that I think that's a great link, by the way. Thank you, Peggy. But when you do that and you approach it that way, you can imagine how much time you'll be saving for things that you think are pointless. So really make it a habit this year that if you think something is wasting your time, in order to value your time, a lot of times we focus on that they're not valuing our time. Well, sometimes we have to offer them a different idea. So if you go and you offer a solution and then you also say, let's just try it, they might be more open to it. So I think that's really important, the conversations that we have and the way we approach. A better way to also meet and collaborate, see if you can get an online network set up. One of the great things is if you have Drive, and that's back to Google app, it makes for very effective teamwork. So this is how we actually, Peggy and I, and some other teachers around the world, we're actually all from different areas, and we collaborate so effectively using online. I mean, we're able to create a conference every single year. People are able to do such amazing things, and all of this is free. The great thing about it is you can put everything to the cloud. It's easy for collaboration. Imagine if this was all teachers in one department. Let's say this is all teachers in the English language teaching department. You could have all your lesson plans up here. You can have all your forms, your templates. You can share from each other. You can edit those. If somebody has a project and they had all the rubrics for it, you all could really save a lot of time by helping each other. So see how much that, yeah, exactly. It saves the time from sending emails back and forth. And then you have the documents all there. So try to get some kind of, whether it be an Emoto group that you work in. I prefer Google Apps. One of the things is you can work offline, but you have to make sure that when you're doing it on your mobile device that you do click actually that it's available offline for you to work on. That's a good question. I actually, this is my 4th year of connected learning. So for me, for each course, okay, so this is the kind of person that I am. Each year, well, actually each class, I try to change something. If something doesn't work out for me and I'm upset about it, then I change it because I don't like to be upset. I'm very much about being a happy person. So if anything stresses me out, I really do try to change it. I try to change the way I do it. So I try a lot of things each time, and that way I don't repeat the same thing, and that's the way that I approach it. So for me, I've learned a lot of this by trial and error because that's what I do. So this is my syllabus. You can even talk right here. This is what Peggy was talking about, where we can chat. We can even go on like a Google Hangout. We had a Google call the other day. You don't even have to do Hangout. You can do voice as well. So Turkey, yes, thank you so much for asking that question. So what you're getting here is all my recommendations from every time I've done that. So you actually don't have to do that. You can just take my recommendations because these are the best ones from the recommendations that I have found. The other one that I think is good is Google Templates. Okay, so you know how you want rubrics, right? Or maybe sometimes you want to create a presentation for your students or a book. Let's say you want them to do a digital book, right? Well, what you can do is if you go to templates on Google Docs, you can find another teachers for free. Anything you want, just anything. You want a seating chart. You want a parent letter in Spanish. You can probably find it on Google Doc templates, and then you can edit it and change it yourself. This is what I do a lot. I have done storyboards this way. I have done rubrics this way. I have done interactive storytelling this way. I've done so many things with Google Doc templates. It is amazing. It's a lot like Microsoft templates where somebody gives you a PowerPoint template. It has budgets, party invitations, flip books, calendars, schedules, cards, certificates. It even has things on students and teachers. It has business cards, anything you can think of. So that's what you can try. That's been kind of the gem that I've found. So think after you figure out how you can save your time. Also, you know, we need to keep to that time as well. So it's not only that we keep our routines, and we also keep to ourselves. So for me, one of the things I do as well is I usually have Post-it notes, and they have something like a saying or something, because for me, I have to remind myself I'm the kind of person that works too much and will do a lot and spend a lot of time on things. And I have to constantly remind myself to take that time and put it back into me. So that's something that we have to do. Now, there are ways that I've actually found saved so much time online. And so I'm going to share them with you. I use browser tools. I use tool apps, bookmarklets, and extensions. Now, what are those? Let's see. Once you learn these 4 things, you will save so much time in life doing many, many things that you will just be astounded. And I'll show you what that is in just a sec. But one of these is Evernote. Evernote has all of those components. So when I look at technology, a lot of teachers ask me, Shelley, how do you decide what technology you want to use? How do you decide between Google? How do you decide between Evernote? Well, these are the categories I have. When I download a new app, I try to find an app that, first of all, is free. That's the main criteria usually. Has a freemium, you know, even if it has like a free, it has to have something free because I want to test it out. I make sure that it can be accessed on the web. So that's what I mean by browser tool. Google can be accessed on the web. So you don't even need a mobile device. You can use a Chromebook. You can use Google on an Android device. You can use it. So I want to make sure that it's also on my laptop available as well. And I can go to an internet cafe and I can use Google. I want to make sure that it has apps, and I also want to look at the apps within the tool. So I'll show you what that means. A bookmarklet, if you do a search for bookmarklet, an extension on the app, like let's say you started Pinterest, most tools, great tools, will have a bookmarklet and an extension. That goes in your browser. That goes, for example, on Firefox or Chrome. So Evernote is one of these. This is the Evernote app. But Evernote has all of these apps as well. And so that's what I mean by tool apps. So not only, and Google works this way as well. If I add this free app, then that makes this Evernote so much better. I can do more things with it. So for example, I'll show you what it looks like in a sec, but with Evernote, this is what it looks like. I can take pictures, I can upload reminders, I can do audio reminders, video. Notice how I have my workout diary there, I have my goals there, I can even have my lesson plans there, my post-station. I mean, there's so many things, and so you can add all of those. It looks a lot like this, so you can see my me working out every day and posting it. And then I was writing a blog post, so you can kind of see that as well. And here I can attach a different items to go with it as well. The great thing is I can send all this through email as well, so that's what's great with Evernote. Now this is Evernote by itself. If I download, I can connect it to Postachio for the fastest way to blog as well. Yes, it's worth exploring. It's worth learning those tools. And the great thing about it is that you can automatically, whatever I add on Evernote, I could post to Pistachio, actually. And so it makes it into a blog. So everything that I collected over here, by connecting it to Pistachio, will end up nicely put in a blog post. So see how great that is? Let's say that your students were doing research projects and you wanted them to document each day, like an observation journal, what they were doing. For example, a science fair project, right? So each day they have to take a track. Well, it would be very easy. After they put it all together in Evernote, it automatically posts for them. They don't have to do anything else. They put it all in one notebook, and that means it goes to Pistachio and it's published. So if you have not written a blog yet, I wish this was here 4 years ago when I started blogging, but it wasn't. TheNerdyTeacher.com has tons and tons of stuff if you want to know more about it. So when I was using Evernote, I discovered Penultimate. So this is made by the same company. And when I add Penultimate, then it makes my Evernote better. So now I can add this. I can add my own I drew these. You see, this is how I take conference notes. And what happens is, because it's part of Evernote, it'll automatically categorize this for me. So this is another one from Evernote. You can go online on the web. You can draw on a map. You can start with something blank. You can do so much research with Evernote. There's some other places if you don't want to use Google Docs. I would recommend, or Evernote, then I would recommend Box.net. It's the next really good item there, I think. And then a lot of people use Dropbox. But the thing is that Box.net is a lot. You can collaborate together. You can actually collaborate on documents, and you can save things and make them private access as well. And this is with Dropbox. It has storage as well. Another great thing you can do is you can bookmark and organize. And these are my favorite bookmarking apps. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead because it's a lot to cover. Sorry. I always use Deagle. Deagle has 1,000 things that make it a really great way. So if you do not have a place where you have bookmarks, I would recommend Deagle. You can set Deagle up to your Twitter if you have a Twitter. And if you put different hashtags, every time I retweet something, it automatically goes into my Deagle. Whatever hashtags that they use, those become the tags. So that's how fast it is to bookmark. So if I'm on Twitter and I see something I like, then I'll put that. You'll see a lot of times people will put FB or TW or something like that. And that means that they're usually telling that app to go ahead and take it and bookmark it. So Deagle is what I would start with. It also lets you automatically blog your things. There are different things I do. I use it with live binders as well. So if you can find two apps that work together and make themselves stronger, that's my tip. So don't worry so much about all these tools. You'll have access to all this. This is just for you to get an idea of what's out there. And what I want you to do is I want you to not get overwhelmed, but I want you to think of this more like a buffet. and you look at all the food, because we're from all over the world today. We're from China, we're from the Ukraine, we're from the US, and we're from Turkey, from all kind of different places around the world. So I don't know what your teaching situation is. So what I want you to do is think of the 2 or 3 things that you saw that really jumped out at you and you thought, wow, that's something I could use. And that's what I want you to do, is just take 2 and then walk away with those. Now, the reason I'm showing you EduClippers, there's a lot of platforms that will save you so much time because they do everything. There are 2 that do that really well. That's Edmodo. Well, 3. Edmodo, EduClipper, and Schoology. EduClipper will let you have your own classes, so you can even give assignments. So if your students are all on EduClipper, they can bookmark. You can bookmark. They can have e-portfolios. You can give digital badges or grades. So it has everything. You can even set up classes. You can even give them assignments this way. This is a little bit what you would call learning management system. Okay, so that if you can find, and it's free by the way, and it does have an app on iPad, that's awesome. But if you can find a way to use a tool that does everything, then that's what you want to do. That'll save you time. So this is what it looks like if you do the portfolio version as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. Okay. And then if you can find something that does everything for you, for me, that's HootSuite. HootSuite does different columns. It lets me post in one go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, because people ask me quite often, Shelly, how do you find time to do everything? Well, I find time to do everything because I have things like HootSuite. It's a manager, and what it does is you get different columns. It's on my app, and I also have the browser tool, and I also have my Chrome extension. So I make it to where I take one app that does everything, and I want to stay in that app because it's going to save me time, because then I don't have to go to Facebook. I don't have to go to Twitter, and I don't have to do all of that separately. LinkedIn. Instead, I can just see it all on Hootsuite. This is another app for creating, for saving you time as well. You can create recipes. In other words, if you download a photo, then you're saying here you want them all to go to Dropbox. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Anything that you do that takes a lot of time, again, try to find a free app that makes it faster. For me, I was signing so many documents online, so I downloaded the Sign Now app. There are a lot of apps that they use like this. You can use presentation apps. Like, for example, if you notice you do a lot of presentations and you want to cut time on that, you might want to use something like Haiku Deck. Anywhere that you spend a lot of time and you want to cut down that time, find an app that does something and will make your life easier. And it's probably going to be free. And then before I go, one of the best things that you can do to prepare for your Zen, you're always going to have bad days. Things are always going to go wrong. But as teachers, it's important. And I do think, people say teachers aren't heroes, but I really do think that teachers are heroes. I think every day we kind of put on our invisible capes. And a lot of us are like that. We are very proactive. And when something happens, we're able to go, and we don't necessarily think about, but we're very good at stepping in the situation and figuring it out and solving many of our students' crises that they have every time they're with us. and I think that's great. You usually have a kid who slipped and fell down, or you'll have one who's having a bad day and crying. Or you'll have another student who who had a bad grade, and we have these situations every single day. Don't sweat the small stuff. And then also the other thing that's really important is we need to learn how to let go. It's important also that we don't come in and we don't believe that we're going to have a bad day with one particular student or one particular teacher or one particular administrator, because you're already causing yourself stress. So that's been one thing that I've really worked on, is how to let go, and how to let go of impressions I have about people and stuff, because then it automatically creates a negative working environment. So it's important. Yeah, exactly. So it's important that we're open-minded. And you are going to have bad days. Zen doesn't mean you're balanced, that you have great days all the time. It's that we're being proactive of our physical, mental, spiritual, overall well-being. So good luck on your Zen. You can always come down and get more resources, okay? So thank you all so much. Yes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I will share with you um, where you're going to be able to find the presentation, which is going to be here. And thank you so much for joining us. And Magnus, I would see you online on my Twitter feed, so it's good to see you on here too. And all of you, thank you for taking the time to be here. And I will be loading them up also to the Shelley Tarot webinar, so you can get a certificate and you can also see the recording and everything like that. So have a great weekend and take some time for yourself.